And I'm like, I spend so much time complaining, looking at what has gone wrong, that I sometimes forget to be like, dude, this is the coolest part of my life, is the things that go wrong. The coolest part of my life is the things that are where God has showed up right in the nick of time when it didn't make sense, or when I thought he was too late and we couldn't pay a thing. But because of that, we were forced into this space and met this person who opened up this door, or we had to shut down this show because of this. And now, because of that, I thought that was God breaking his promise, but really it was what he used to thrust us in the fullness of what he had.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. I think as men, we need to remember the adventure of this all. It's something to be grateful for. It's exciting. Like look with that anticipation as if you're watching a movie.
Yes.
Let your own life be the movie you're watching.
Hey everybody, welcome to the RESGEN Giving Life Podcast, where every episode we have meaningful and helpful conversations about being a man whose life in Christ gives life to others. My name is Tom Henderson, the founder of RESGEN, and I am stoked you are joining me today. Before we jump into the show today, I do want to remind you that we are just weeks away from a RESGEN Men's Summit 2026. And here's the deal, guys. I want you to join us, okay? Seriously, on Saturday, February 21, thousands of men are going to fill the Denny Sanford Premier Center in Sioux Falls from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. to be engaged, equipped, encouraged to be men of vision, to be men who align the vision that they have for their lives with the vision that God has for their lives. And seriously, I don't want you to miss the communicators we're bringing in. We've got John C. Maxwell. We've got Tim Tebow. We got my good buddy, Sammy Adaby. We got comedian Johnny W. My other great friend, MJ Ross. It is going to be a great day, and you do not want to miss your opportunity to be a part of this 6-hour event that truly will make a long-term impact on your life and on your relationships, both with God and with others. So if you do not have your tickets yet, after you're done listening to the podcast, or maybe you even want to hit pause right now and line it up right now, head to resgen.org and get those tickets. And be sure to invite the other dudes in your relational world to join you so they don't miss out on it as well. All right, well, let's not spend any more time on what's ahead, and let's get into what's going to happen right now. And that is a conversation with a dude that I know is going to encourage and challenge us all. Dustin Tavella is a follower of Jesus. He's a husband, he's a father, he's a comedian, and America's Got Talent winning illusionist and storyteller. And on today's show, we are going to talk about it all, okay? I mean, we are going to talk about Jesus, we're going to talk about calling, we're going to talk about using our platform for God's glory, and yes, I'm sure we'll also talk a little bit about magic and his journey on America's Got Talent. I hope you're ready for a high-octane episode, because without further ado, let's get the convo started. Dustin Tavella, my friend, welcome. Welcome, bro.
Thank you so much.
Man, first of all, thank you for coming on the podcast, but thank you for coming to Sioux Falls.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. It's amazing. I've never been here before, and it's beautiful. And, I didn't make the connection. Sioux Falls, like waterfall. And then I realized, you said yesterday, I didn't say anything when you told me, you're like, and this is where the falls are.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that would make sense. There's actual falls. So that was a nice surprise. Yeah. There's water here.
Yeah, and you're coming to Sioux Falls at the right time because, well, first of all, you're here in January, which not a lot of people volunteer to come to South Dakota for the first time in January.
Yeah.
But I was thankful to hear, as we were able to hang out, you, me, and Colton, last night over dinner, that you actually like the cold.
And I'm from Philly originally, so I'm used to some cold stuff. It's been a while since I lived there, but
okay,
it's not too foreign. Like, it made me feel a little piece of home being
right
in stupid cold weather. Actually, Colton told me, he said, dude, when we leave, I thought he said 22, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be cold. And then he actually said negative 22, and I was like, that's significantly different from what I thought you said.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that. I mean, it's coldish.
Yeah, coldish. That's good. Okay, well, hey, like I said in the intro, we're gonna talk about a lot of stuff today. We're just gonna let the Lord lead our conversation, and we're gonna touch on a lot of great stuff. But for some, this may be an introduction to who you are.
Cool.
Okay. Now, as I told you last night at dinner, when I first was introduced to you, it was the way that a lot of America was introduced to you when you were on this show called America's Got Talent in 2021, when you won the show. And I remember Laura and I are AGT watchers, even still to this day, because partially, yes, the talent, but we love the stories, right? And there was something that when we watched you, I said, there is something different about this dude. I know that this dude is a believer because he doesn't just want to tell great stories. He wants to tell the greatest story ever told and tell others about Christ. So, I mean, I could just feel that through the screen. I just knew that was who you were. But since maybe this is going to be an introduction to others that aren't AGT watchers,
Yeah.
I'd love for you to just kind of introduce yourself
Yeah.
and then we're gonna dive in.
Yeah. And for those people who aren't AGT watchers, I would say I'm in that same boat. I've never watched an episode of America's Got Talent in my life. When I was on the show, they'd be like during the elimination rounds, they're like, look, just stand here. Like on the elimination rounds when just talk to me like I've never seen the show before and let's go from there. So, yeah, people are always like, I'm so sorry, I don't watch AGT. I'm like, I don't either. I feel bad I won because I've never watched it. Anyways, yeah, so I am an illusionist, magician, whatever you have to say to offend less people. It's funny. It's the same thing. It's just one sounds nicer in church, I guess. I don't have powers is the reality of what I am. But I do love using like visuals and illustrations to communicate stories and testimonies and things that God's done in my life, my family's life. And it's funny. A lot of people, I obviously I couldn't just like talk about Jesus on the show, and I had these moments of like maybe I'll just take a stand and like go off script and just say Jesus, right? But it was a really cool transformative season of being on that show and building relationships with people and realizing that like the most long-term thing we have are relationships, and we have these moments on stage where we can do things that might inspire somebody or say a thing, but often like those moments are forgotten, and the thing that's remembered most is relationships. And so it was really cool, like building friendships with a lot of the producers and just getting to be a light in that space. And I think it kind of really helped me structure and script stories that were sharing like explicit testimonies, right? Our boy's adoption, my parents' recovery from their crazy past of affairs and drugs and alcohol and all this stuff. God putting our family back together, the Christians that stepped into our lives and changed everything. How to kind of communicate that in a way that doesn't sound churchy, but also doesn't lose its authenticity. I think sometimes within the church world, we forget how we're so accustomed to like these scripted stories that we've put together to communicate the gospel. And then we realize we don't actually talk like that when we're having lunch with somebody or like when we're at a meal. So that was a really cool experience for me, I think, is just like, man, how do I craft the stories of God to be in my voice, right? Like not to put on pastor mode and give some message, but yeah. And then since then, it's been a wild journey of just learning a lot. I have not stopped learning. I'd only been doing magic like 2 years before I won the show. And so
Incredible.
I feel like only now am I figuring out how to do this stuff, because on the show it was a lot of just making things up as we went.
Yeah. By the way, making stuff up and having great success, and I think what you did so well is just winning the hearts of people, because of course, as you know, it's a voting show, right? And you're building a relationship with people, through the screen. You just talked about the power of relationships, and I love that. Like you said, so much good stuff there. But the reality is that even at the end of our days, right? Think about how we spend so much of our days and our focus, and we toil and we tarry over this, like, okay, consumption of stuff, like accumulating stuff, whether it be wealth or trips or cars, or I mean, whatever, right? Whatever it is. But yet at the end of our days, none of that stuff is surrounding our bedside. If we get to the end of our days and we're lucky enough to have an experience where we're lying in a bed surrounded by our loved ones, obviously there's tragic things that can happen, and that's not everybody's situation. But what I'm saying is no one says, hey, go and get my high school record. Or no, go get my favorite car or my trophy or whatever, or, or my bank account or what. It's go get the people whom I love and that I want to be around me. And I'm sure you've seen this meme where, it's like a hearse pulling a U-Haul. But that's the only place you ever see that. Is on some sort of photo on the internet, right? But yet we spend so much of our life pursuing that stuff.
Yeah, it's true. I think, for me, I've been in the entertainment world for a long time. Before I was doing magic stuff, I was doing music, and there's something so like appealing, something so like appetizing, something so intoxicating about the idea of having things that culture says matters, right? Because I think we're kind of all on this quest to matter and to have purpose and to have meaning, and we want to be important to people who are important to us. We want to feel like we have value. And I think sometimes it's funny as a magician, right? To use this word, like, I think sometimes there's this illusion that things that we gain will somehow add satisfaction to our lives. And And like you said, normally at the end of your life, you realize, oh, that's not any of the stuff that I want or need right now. It's not anything that's coming with me. And so, anyways, within the entertainment world, there's always people who are successful and have more followers, and they're better looking, and they have a better voice, and they're better communicators. They're just better everything. There's always someone better than you in a lot of areas, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow when, again, your identity is in gaining some kind of approval from man. And I read a thing recently that I think kind of almost articulated this journey that God has had me on, and really has had us on, my family, because my wife was also in the entertainment world for a while. But there's just this idea, and I know we know this. This sounds so simple, but the idea that like everything is the Lord's, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not an owner of anything. I'm a manager. Like God has appointed me as a manager, and I think as I've seen things through that lens, I'm like, man, anything that I have, it's not mine. It's just I'm just sitting here with stuff that God has given me, and it's like, how am I using that to bring life and to do something beneficial for the owner of this stuff that I have? And when I look at all this stuff as my own, when I look at like the things that I collect and the notoriety that I have and the trophies that I've won, it feels very like I have to maintain that, right? Like even when I won AGT, no one cares the next year. They're like, it's the next winner. And then the next year, it's the next winner. It's like these accolades, and you see this all the time. Like dude, to this day, I'll like go back to visit my hometown, like go back to visit my parents, and I'll find friends from high school, and they're still like reliving the glory days from like being on the football team and all stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not you anymore, dude.
It's like Cousin Rico in Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, you are, no offense, but you are like 48 pounds heavier. Your hair's gone. Like you are not the quarterback anymore, bro.
Yeah.
And look, that's just part of life. Like
Yes,
we can't keep those things as our identity. And so, anyways, the idea that like this stuff isn't ours in these seasons of life, when sometimes we have more, sometimes we have less, we think of this as like managing things in a way that will benefit the owner, right? When you're the manager of a store, you're the manager because you've been entrusted to make sure the company does well. And it's not for your own good, it's for the company's good, for the owner's good. And I think that as we've seen things like that, I'm like, okay, God, in this season, we have this platform. In this season, we have this much money. In this season, we only have this much money. In this season, we've gotten these accolades. But how are we using this to expand your kingdom? And then honestly, on the flip side of that is the fear of these people who have stuff and aren't thinking that way. People who have the stuff that I think that I want. And now all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, but I just want to be a good steward of what I've been given. It's just like a very sobering thought. And I think that that's helped me a lot in that space, in the pursuit of these things of not trying to just collect stuff, because now I'm actually intimidated the more that I have. I'm like, this is just more stuff I have to do a good job with.
Yeah. Right.
And I don't even know if I'm doing a good job with the little that I've been given.
Right. Yeah. Too much that's been given, much is required. I mean, the scripture's very clear on that.
Yeah. So God starts pouring out. I'm like, slow down, dude. I want to do a good job with what I already have. And it's just nice to feel that, right? Like we're not living everyday thinking we need more. We need to maintain more. It's very freeing and liberating in a culture driven by social media and measurable accolades that we think we have to live up to.
Yeah. And you said something there that was really, really, I think, important that I don't want to gloss over is, there's seasons where you have less and there's seasons where you have more.
Yeah.
I mean, that's life.
Yeah.
Right. But yet the call is still the same to steward and manage the less or the more.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter.
Right.
Because when our focus is on the right thing, that's what's going to make all the difference in the world.
Yep.
And so that is such a, I think, a crucial point that we don't want to just gloss over.
Yeah.
Because it's easier said than done.
Yeah. And to that point, that scripture in the Bible where Paul says, I've learned the secret to life, to have much, to have little, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Paul's talking about how he's learned how to be content.
Yep.
Whether he has a lot of stuff, whether he has a little bit of stuff, if he's rich, if he's poor, if he's free, if he's in jail. And what I love is that it says, it's the word, I've learned the secret, right?
That's good.
This isn't something you can just tell somebody. It's something you need to learn. Learning takes time. Learning takes experience. Learning takes practice.
Failure.
Like I can't, yep. I can't just be like, hey man, here's how you play soccer. And then you literally walk outside right now and win a soccer game. Like you need to learn how to play. And I think that's another thing that for me has been very sobering is, okay, God, I know the secret, but to learn it and to feel it and to live it is something so different. And that takes time. and it takes development. And I think that's the thing sometimes as Christians we don't want or really embrace, because we're like, God, I just want peace. God, help me to do it. And then we want him to just give it to us. But peace is something learned. Joy is something learned. It takes a daily discipline of like, do I get in my word, or do I get onto my social media feed? Do I get into a place that actually is giving me life, or do I get into it, or do I start scrolling through stuff that's telling me what should be important to me and what I need, and the success that I need? And I think that it is a daily discipline. I mean, man, we live in a culture that like every day is informing us of something. And I think when we can be intentional about what we're informing our brain of, we can start learning that secret, learning how to live that out. And I think just as encouragement for anyone listening, like it just takes time. So don't be frustrated with yourself.
Yeah.
If you're like, I don't have that peace. I tried this church thing, and a week later I was still sad. It's like, dude, it's a relationship. It takes time, man. And relationships have, I mean, as a married person, you have seasons of marriage where like marriage is the best thing ever. And then you have seasons where you're like, I hate everything about this woman. And like, that's just, but as you're learning, and then those seasons that are uncomfortable actually end up producing what makes the next season sweet, because you've wrestled through those hard things that you thought you hated, but really you realize it's just stuff that made you uncomfortable, where you have to look at yourself and you start stripping yourself of the things that you're entitled to, and you start serving a person, and then that season becomes sweet again. I think it's the same with the Lord. A lot of us, we get mad at God because we haven't wrestled through these issues, and we haven't allowed God to develop us in the things we're wrestling. So, I always like to encourage people, like, take your time. Don't get frustrated with yourself.
Being patient with yourself.
Yeah.
And giving yourself grace, because that's the other thing. It's like, God, his grace towards us, abundant.
Yeah.
Right? And like, by the way, abundant means a lot.
Yeah.
And like never ending, right?
Yeah.
And so, but yet we're so eager to not give grace to ourselves. So I think that's such a good word, for all of us to hear, myself included, because we and that doesn't mean that we don't strive to do well or have expectations. Like, man, I need to make some adjustments. I need to lean into the discipline and the intentionality. Okay. Let's not cheapen the grace that's offered or that we give ourselves, but let's just embrace that and say, God, thank you for your grace. You know what? We're putting one foot in front of the other. We're keeping moving forward. So let me ask you this, Dustin, because I mean, we'll get a whole bunch of stuff, like I said, but tell me, like, when did Jesus really become like, man, this is the most important relationship of my life?
Yeah.
Because, and again, I think there's a learning that happens. Like, it's not like this, okay, I committed my life to Jesus and now like, oh man, now everything's amazing, right? I mean, you just spoke to that. But when for you would you say, like, you know what, I knew that I wanted Jesus to be the focal point of my life, because what you're talking about here is such an important perspective, that is really allowed that to be the lens in what you look at your life through.
Yeah. I think there's been it's almost been like this compilation of moments. So for me, when I was young, my parents' marriage fell apart. There was this couple that stepped into my parents' lives, helped them kind of just put everything back together. And not because they were smarter than anyone, not because they had more resources or more money than anyone, but simply because they had eyes to see hope where it didn't look like hope existed, right? My parents, their marriage was a mess, and these people were like, oh, Jesus can do something with that. And so they showed up at our house, man. They'd come over, they'd have meals. We go to fairs and festivals together, and and this might sound funny, but there was this moment where like we had just started kind of figuring out this Jesus thing and had come out of some church hurt. And we were at a fair, and I remember, when you're at a fair, man, you're just riding stupid rides, eating funnel cake and everything. It's just this bad combination of like, how can I do the worst things for me?
And by the way, the rides have always freaked me out a little bit, because I'm like, that was in another town last weekend.
Yeah.
Did every bolt travel?
Every single, and who is this person running this thing? I'm pretty sure he's 12 or 98, and like, I don't even know he can see the buttons he's pushing. But so that's fair. And I remember I just got a stomach ache. Like, I just felt so bad. And I'm like, in my mind, probably from too much funnel cake. But had a stomach ache. And this couple, their names were Steve and Dana. And I remember my parents, they pulled me aside because they were talking to Steve and Dana. And my mom was like, Dustin, listen, Steve and Dana are really spiritual people, and they want to pray for your stomach ache. And I was like, like here, like pray for my stomach ache, like here, like at the fair, like what? Prayers for church, for before bed and maybe before meals if you're not too hungry and you have like the patience to take a second. But I'm like, they're gonna pray. We're gonna pray at a fair, like in front of people, for my stomach ache. That's my fault. And so they prayed for me, and nothing happened. I didn't get healed. I'd still, but that's not the point of the story. My stomach still hurt, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. But this moment has always stood out to me because I'm like, these are just these people who they just engage with God anywhere, and they ask God things. And even though God didn't like heal my stomach, and even though the outcome wasn't what they were asking for, they continued to like love God and walk with God. And I was like, this is a very different kind of Christianity than what I know. And even though I was young, like that moment has always stuck with me. So fast forward, my parents are figuring out life, right? And now they're like, oh, I think we're Christians now, so we probably shouldn't celebrate Halloween because it's Satan's birthday, and then we can't celebrate Halloween that year. And the next year, they're like, oh, well, that was just too religious and legalistic. This year, we're going to celebrate Halloween. And then next year, they're like, okay, so we messed up last year. This time, we're going to celebrate Halloween only if we can be, only if we're Bible characters. Like, we have to dress up as Bible characters. Then the next year, something else. Then the next year, one year, me and my sister for Halloween, we were the Beatitudes. Like, we dressed up like bees. And on every yellow stripe, we just had scripture written. Like, we were the Beatitudes for Halloween. My parents were like super Christians. But
tell me you have a picture of that.
We do somewhere. I need to find it. But what's funny, and again, I remember my mom, like later in my life, apologized to me, like, I'm so sorry, your childhood must have felt so inconsistent. But again, these were those moments where I was like, man, my parents are engaging with God. Like, they're like, to me, this is what relationship feels like. It's like, is it bad? We want to be intentional. We want to do the right thing. We want to honor God. We don't want to err on like we're so religious that we're so disconnected from society. But then we also don't want to err on like we're so much like society that nothing offends us, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do we have true relationship? And to me, that's what that spoke. This wasn't just like this book of rules. And obviously there's truth. There's things that are for sure cut and dry. But a lot of things take navigating. And I watched them having real relationship, real conversation with God. The inconsistency actually showed me that there was nobody that was like, hey, Pete and Patty, it's my parents' names. Hey, Pete and Patty, these are the rules. Do this every day, every year. Like, it was like, hey, this is a relationship. We're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then I remember I got to a point, I went to this youth conference, and it was during worship. And I don't know, I'd been around church now a couple years, and but for some reason, like, worship happened. I remember I'm with my friends, right? I'm in high school, and all of a sudden I just started crying. Like, no reason, nothing happened. I just started crying, and I was like, what is happening? I'm looking right at like the girl in my youth group that I have a crush on, and my friend that I'm trying to be tough in front of. I'm like, why am I crying in front of these people? And I'm like, you can't really do that there's something in my eye thing because it's like both eyes and it's continuous. But the speaker got up on stage and was like, hey, I feel like there's some people right now having an encounter with the Holy Spirit. And maybe some of you feel something. Maybe you feel emotional. Maybe you've never felt this before. Maybe some of you guys just started crying for no reason. Maybe. And I was like, that's so weird. They just said, I'm like, is this happening to other people?
Yeah.
Is this just for me? Because either you just said that just to me, which is weird because we're in like an arena full of people, or there's more people doing what I'm doing, which is also weird. Like, just a bunch of us just started crying. Like, that's the strangest thing I've ever heard in my life. What kind of weird cult am I part of right now? But they were like, listen, sometimes when the Holy Spirit moves and you have an encounter, it's God wanting to do something real in your life, right? He's wanting to, this isn't just a belief set. This is like him wanting to be with you. And they called people forward who wanted to like deepen their relationship with Jesus. And that moment I think was big for me because I was like, okay, this is, up until that point, it had been kind of my parents' relationship. I was watching them transform. I wasn't the guy on drugs or drinking. Like, it was my parents. But that moment for me was like, dude, I can have like friendship with God and I can feel his presence and it can do something in me.
Yeah.
I was maybe just a long answer to a question, but I think it was just the compilation of moment after moment.
But that's so good because, and I love all those stories. And I still want to see that picture of you in the Beatitudes costumes. But by the way, so we're gonna find that. But at any rate, the big God becoming small in that space.
Yeah.
Right. It's the public God, the God that you news out there becoming personal.
Yeah.
Where it feels like there's just this moment in this sea of humanity and it's not gonna be the same for everybody, because
Yeah.
I think sometimes even when someone can hear that story, they can say, well, I haven't had that experience.
Right.
I haven't had that experience
Yeah.
where all of a sudden I'm like feeling a little like, weepy or whatever and go, man, what's happening? So, which is another thing that I think we often do.
Yeah.
We compare our the
Yeah.
way that our relationship with Christ started or the
Yeah.
journey we're on with other people's journey.
Yeah.
And the reality is that we all have a different race to run.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And we're all to run our own race.
Yeah.
It's when we try to run other people's race that
Yeah.
those are the
Yeah.
ones we lose. Right.
Mhm.
So this moment, this powerful moment that God just said, Dustin, I love you.
Yeah.
I love you. And I love the word that you used there too is friendship.
Yeah.
It's because friendship is not far off. I think we have, and I'm assuming that you would agree with this too. We have almost lessened the impact of the word friendship because of social media.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, how many friends do we have on
Yeah.
Facebook or social media or whatever? And so but when you look at that word friendship, there's just this depth and this meaning
Mhm.
of the God who created you reached down from heaven,
Yeah.
and says, no, I want a personal relationship and friendship with you. I love
Yeah.
you that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I hear.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of people who unfortunately sometimes would try and talk themselves out of that, right? Like, oh, it's just an emotional experience, like
Yes, that's good.
something hit our emotions and it's just, and look, maybe it was, right? But I think like you don't know
Mhm.
until you start pursuing. Again, when it's a relationship, it's a thing that takes time. And I don't know why this just came in my head. I've never thought this before. So if it doesn't make sense, then we'll just pretend I didn't say it. But I'm almost like imagining, when you're young and there's like the creepy house on the corner and everyone's like, oh, it's this haunted house. And some people are like, no, it's just old and abandoned. And some people are like, oh, this old creepy lady lives in there. And then some people are like, no, it's a ghost. Like all these stories that start building on this house, right? The only way you know the truth is by going up, knocking on the door, and finding out what the heck's going on at that house, as weird or uncomfortable as it might seem.
Yeah.
And then maybe there is a lady who lives there, and then you just sit and have conversation, and you start to realize more. Maybe she's a little quirky, but maybe you start to realize that she's been through war and she's been through these things, and you're like, oh my goodness, all these people had all these weird misconceptions because they don't realize what she's been through and what she's experienced and the loneliness, whatever the thing is. And I think sometimes like we're so quick to say what we know about relationship with God, about Christianity, about faith. We're so quick to be like, yeah, like some people are like, every emotional experience, it's the Holy Spirit. And it's this, everything's overly like, look, sometimes we just get sad, man. I don't gotta over spiritualize
Yeah.
stuff. Then you have people on the other side who like everything's, dude, it's just in your head. Like, there's a chemical thing that happens when a nice pad on the keyboard's playing and it creates an emotional response, right? You have people on both ends of the
Right.
spectrum who've kind of they navigate everything through the lens of what they already have told themselves they believe.
Mhm.
And so that's what they continue to say. But I think that when we can, and you actually said this last night, which I think applies, you were talking about the idea of staying curious.
Yeah.
I think when you can approach something with like, God, what are you doing here? How do I continue to explore and be open to what you would want to do in my life? And I think God created emotions. So whether it's an experience that's directly from the Holy Spirit or it's just your body responding God's way
Yeah.
to a thing because you've created an environment. I mean, you look throughout the Bible, there's so many people, it's like when they wanted to usher in the presence of God, they'd bring in musicians, right? They'd bring in did I say usher out the presence of
No,
God?
you said it.
Usher in the okay. I was like, I don't know. Usher in the presence of God, they'd bring out the musicians and they would create a space where they could focus and not be distracted. And I would picture now,
Yeah.
throw on some soaking music on Spotify, put your phone in another room,
Yes.
dim the lights, like just be able to see less. And this isn't, again, I just think this is like you're eliminating distractions. You're eliminating the things that could start influencing your brain. And I think, again, that's why it takes discipline. How do you hear the voice of the Lord? How do you know it's the voice of the Lord? How do you know it's not just yourself? Well, I can't just say, well, that was just you. I have to say, okay, well, then maybe it was me. So how do I make sure it's not me and I make sure it's God? I just think it's those things that take time, man.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah. And with the curiosity, right? I mean, we enter into so much. What we were talking about last night is just that, we enter into so many things with certainty rather than curiosity. And that keeps, I mean, we do it in our marriages. We do it in our relationships with our
Yeah.
kids. We do it at work, right? With a coworker or a boss or, anybody.
yeah.
But then we also do that in our relationship with God and say,
Yeah.
well, what if God is trying to teach me this?
Yeah.
Or what if, this is something that maybe I didn't expect,
Yeah.
right? There's power in just that understanding of, what, we could probably learn a little bit more if
Yeah.
we did enter conversations and situations,
Yeah.
environments with curiosity
Yeah.
versus certainty, because
Yeah.
there's just an openness.
Yeah.
And even when we're approaching our time with the Lord, if we're going in, which, I mean, let's be honest, to stay connected to Christ, all of our time is with the Lord. I mean,
Yeah.
really, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, but we've even just narrowed that down to, that's the 15 minutes that I spend in my Bible. That's my time with God.
Yeah.
And the other 23 hours and 45 minutes, that's my time.
Yeah, yeah.
But going back to what you said earlier, it's actually not our time at all. It's all his time.
Yep.
Right. And
Yep.
it's our job to steward that time.
Yep.
And so, man, dude, so much good stuff. And so as you then began growing in that, so like, okay, so, and what you talked about was, okay, I wasn't going to allow this moment. And if you look at even like Luke chapter 9, which is what I kind of thought about when you said, like, so you have this unbelievably powerful personal moment with Christ.
Mm-hmm.
You could have said, okay, that was great. That was great.
Yeah.
And now I'm moving on with everything else. And I'm just going to leave that as a moment. But in Luke chapter 9, the story of the transfiguration, that moment led to movement.
Mm-hmm.
That movement was down the mountain.
Yeah.
Down to everyday life.
Right.
And then that movement led on to mission, because right when they got down from mission, they were presented with an opportunity to be, for Jesus to come into contact and begin, ministering to people, right? So for you, as you began to kind of process, man, maybe God wants to string these moments together to move me closer into understanding how he wants me to live, how he wants to use me in my life, towards your mission.
Yeah.
Talk with me about just that mindset for you, and trying to figure out, well, how does God want to use my life?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like just this ever growing thing, right? It's the maturity that comes with time, where it's like, okay, God, this is the stuff that I love. It's a little polluted because I'm human and I like things for me, and I like attention. I like accolades. I like when I do a thing. I like when I work on a thing and people tell me good job. Like, but it is about you. I know in my mind I can't save people or give anyone anything of value. Only God can do that. That's all the stuff that you can just say that and spout these things off all day. But to truly, again, get into a place of, God, where is my heart, and how do I bring about the transformation that actually creates real impact in people's lives, that doesn't just create fans that I'm telling myself are now converts, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's very easy to want to turn people towards ourselves. And because we believe Jesus, now it looks like they believe Jesus, but really they're following us, because without us, maybe they would have no relationship with Jesus, which to me becomes a problem, because we should be equipping people to have a relationship with Jesus and not need us, right? Because we're not building our brand, we're building his kingdom. And again, I say all these things, but this is like, I'm still learning this. I mean, just this morning as I'm praying, and maybe this kind of answers the question, but I was praying and I felt like God was speaking to me a lot about like the dependence on him, how important it is to depend on him. And just being fully honest and transparent, I can talk like this now, and I've done this stuff long enough where it's easy for me to like say the words, while simultaneously like not being truly connected to Jesus, right? And sometimes that starts happening when things get comfortable, when prayers start getting answered. And it's weird how sometimes our answered prayers can actually distract us from Jesus. And when you think about like the manna from heaven, right? As the Israelites, like this, it was just coming what they needed for that day. Again, cute story, man. Like, I love it. It's beautiful. It's fun to talk about. But when you think about, if that was you, God gave you today what you needed today.
Mm-hmm.
But you're gonna have bills tomorrow too. And then you have your mortgage next month, and your light bill and your phone bill, and then you have your kids and the food that they need to eat. And it's like, wait, is this gonna happen again tomorrow? Like, God, can you just give me enough for the year? Like, maybe you put me on salary, right? Like, give me everything, give me one lump sum, and then I just live off that for the year, so I can see and I can manage what you have. And God's like, dude, I'm just gonna give you what you need today. And again, it would be so much easier if I just knew that what I needed tomorrow was gonna be there. But if I knew it was gonna be there tomorrow, I wouldn't be on my face this morning praying like I was in the bathroom of a hotel, like begging for God to continue to provide. I wouldn't feel like I needed him now because he gave me what I needed, and now it's there, and I know it's going to be there for the remainder of the year. And I felt like God started really convicting me of why I want his provision when I want it. It's because it gives me assurance that I have what I need tomorrow. But God's like, I want to give you what you need today. And I think those humbling moments for anybody who has a heart for ministry, for seeing transformation, for discovering who they are, like live in this moment. Are you fully healed from your parents' divorce? Are you fully healed from the abuse that you went through? Are you fully healed from this right now? No, maybe not. But you don't have to just only think about when that will happen and will you be there then. Think about where are you at today? How can you trust in God today? And how can you trust, because this is what faith is, how can you trust that he's going to do it again tomorrow? And that's why the Bible says we don't need to worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow he'll give us what we need tomorrow. When here it has enough worries of its own, focus now. I think as a culture, we've gotten so bad at being in this moment because, I mean, even, you put a thing on social media, you give a good message and you chop it up and you put those clips up so people can see the stuff. But now you need to create the next message, right? On America's Got Talent, create this magic trick with a story, and then I'd make it through the next round. I'm like, well, now I got to make the next one. It's like our tasks will be never ending. Like there's not like I've gone here. And I think sometimes we believe this lie too, that once we have enough money and enough success, look at the most successful people in the world. They haven't stopped. They're still out at dinner with their friends, taking business calls, trying to make sure their money is in the places where it needs to be. Like we will forever have a never-ending list of tasks, of things we need to accomplish. And I think when we can remind ourselves now, today, God, can I be full of joy today? How do I do that? For me, that's been like, I think a bit of the secret sauce. It's just like trying to work to stay in this place of depending on God when my flesh doesn't want it, when my ego doesn't want it, when I'm kicking and screaming because I'm uncomfortable, when I'm complaining to my wife because I'm like, why isn't God doing this? He promised this, and this isn't the timing, right? Like having people around you that can smack you upside your head and be like, dude, you're getting too impatient. Just be here in this moment. We'll worry about that later. Yeah. Man, I think like working towards that has been definitely a key for me and all the weird things that are my life.
Man, dude, that is so rich. That is so good, and so much truth in that. And for you to be able to have that mentality, I feel like is such a good reminder. And what I also loved about that was that's fresh truth this morning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we already talked about how it's easy to say, hey, well, okay, this is what I did back in the day. And this is how God spoke to me back then.
Yeah, yeah.
But when we approach God and say, man, God, what's the fresh word? Not just that I want, but the fresh word that I need.
Yeah.
And that word that I need may not be comfortable.
Yeah.
That may not be something that I want to hear. And like we talked last night a little bit about having other dudes.
Yeah.
And this doesn't mean that it can't be like our spouse. Trust me, I'm sure that your wife does the same thing. When your wife says, Dustin, I think you're getting a little off here. She calls you out. So, Laura does that a lot for me.
I think she thinks that's fun. But yeah, she likes doing that.
Yeah, that's good. But having other guys in our life that will call us out, that will challenge us, that will ask us questions, not in a way that they just because they want to just like say, hey, bro, this is like you're doing this wrong or whatever. But it's because they care so deeply about us as a person.
Yeah,
and not even just about like our influence or our fulfilling God's mission, but because at the end of the day, it's gonna be us standing before Jesus.
Yeah,
right. I mean, with us alone, and just And so when we have people in our life that will consistently say, I want you to be as close to Jesus and become more and more like him every day.
Yeah.
Because your relationship with him, your friendship with him is of utmost importance.
Yeah, yeah, man. And even as you're saying this, I feel like I have this like fire welling up in my heart right now. That like, I think especially as men, like we have forgotten the value of the adventure. Like, dude, let it get bad. Let it be hard. Like no one's ever watched a movie where everything's gone right and liked the movie. Like that's never ever happened in the history of cinematic creation. That's never happened. we naturally, what a blessing that we get to be part of an adventure with these highs and these lows and this tension, and we get to watch and wait. I mean, and I say this a lot, and I hope that people can hear this. Think of any story that you have that's hilarious, or any story that you have that's super inspiring. Like if someone needed some encouragement, a story you would tell to encourage that person, or someone just needs to laugh, and you tell a story. You're with a circle of your friends, and you tell this hilarious story. Your most hilarious stories and your most inspiring stories have all come from things that have gone wrong. There's no story where everything went right and you tell that standing on a stage like, guys, the other day I set my alarm for 7 a.m. and my alarm went off and I went to the fridge and all the food was in there. I ate breakfast and I went to work, got there on time. My boss was happy with me and I got home, I had dinner, and then I went to bed. And you're like, that was the biggest waste of time. Why did you no one loves stories where everything goes right. You know what I'm saying? And when we can look back, so now when I'm in the midst of struggle now, I can look at that struggle and be like, all right, God, what's this adventure going to become? Because right now, dude, this is terrible. I hate how this feels. I don't know where the money's coming from. You asked us to take the step of faith and be generous, but now I don't have what I need to pay for this thing. Whatever the struggle is, this person's sick, this thing's happening. But God, I see how you use adventure. I see how you use mess. And I can't wait a month from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, when I'm telling this story to either make people crack up laughing or to inspire them and give them hope. Because every story that is inspiring or hilarious has come from things going wrong. When we can live in that mentality in the moment and embrace that adventure. And dude, literally the other day I was praying and I was like, I'm complaining to God about stuff. And I feel like God's like, think of all the things. Think of how hilarious the stories that you have to tell, all the things that your parents have ever heard from your life. I started going through all these things. Sometimes my parents will call. They'll call my wife. Where's Dustin? Right? The weirdest things. Oh, Dustin's sitting in a tent with a homeless guy, doing whatever. Dustin's getting his makeup done with Lauren Daigle, right? For a conference. Dustin, the most recent one, Dustin's in a CVS pharmacy bathroom gluing his face back together because he got kicked in the face by a kangaroo trying to do a stupid magic trick. This is the thing I got kicked in the face by a kangaroo a few weeks ago. But I'm thinking of all these weird and quirky moments that I've never taken time to be grateful for. All the weird reports of my life that my parents heard. And I know that sounds like a weird lens, but it was kind of just this thing that God was showing me of the things that I've reported back as my parents are curious as to what's been happening as we're traveling around. And I'm like, I spend so much time complaining, looking at what has gone wrong, that I sometimes forget to be like, dude, this is the coolest part of my life is the things that go wrong. The coolest part of my life is the things where God has showed up right in the nick of time when it didn't make sense, or when I thought he was too late and we couldn't pay a thing. But because of that, we were forced into this space and met this person who opened up this door, or we had to shut down this show because of this. And now because of that, I thought that was God breaking his promise, but really it was what he used to thrust us in the fullness of what he had. Yeah. Come on, man. I think as men, we need to remember the adventure of this all. It's something to be grateful for. It's exciting. Look with that anticipation as if you're watching a movie. Yes. Let your own life be the movie you're watching. I'm like, oh, what's going to happen next? I can't wait to see how this movie ends. Right. Because we know God wins. Right. So we watch with hope, knowing that the outcome is going to be one that brings life not only to us, but to the world around us.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's so good. And as you see that, I'm thinking about so what kind of soundtrack would Dustin have in this movie, right?
Strange one, man. Listen, I always say, because I said I had only been doing magic for 2 years before AGT. Man, before I was doing music, my wife and I then had started a homeless ministry. Dude, we were a couple years into marriage, and I come home one day, and I'm like, yo, listen, babe, I feel like I'm supposed to become a magician. And as a grown man, 3 years into marriage, telling your wife, I know we're already struggling, but I just had this great idea that's going to fix everything. I'm going to do magic tricks as an adult. And I say, I might as well just come out and tell my parents, guys, I'm going to be a pirate now. This is, it just is, it's the stupidest thing ever. And I'm always thinking in my head, either God's really speaking this or I have the worst discernment of all time, because if God didn't say be a magician, I just completely misheard his voice in a very big way. But man, it was wild because my wife went for a run the one day and she's praying and she came back. She's like, yo, and then she's crazier than me. She took it way further. She was like, yo, God told me you're gonna win America's Got Talent doing magic tricks. And I'm like, that's stupid. I'm gonna do birthday parties for gas money and we'll do some stuff with some youth groups. But again, these moments where it's just let life be weird, man. When God speaks of look through the Bible, the stories that we love, everyone is weird. Everyone is so weird, bro. Every story you read is so weird. And but I think like we've become so accustomed to these things that, because again, become a magician. That sounds funny. But what about Noah? He's like, hey guys, water's going to fall from the sky this time. And I'm building this thing called a boat and it's going to hold animals, lots and lots of animals because God said so. Like we hear this story and it's cute. And then it's, oh, and by the way, all you other people are going to die unless you turn and like we read these stories and we're like, look how weird this story has been. The Messiah comes, right? This promised Messiah. And everyone's like, oh, snap. He's coming. He's going to save us. Who the heck is this homeless guy running around avoiding stages to have tea with some weird short guy who was hiding in a tree, right? Like you read these stories in the Bible, we've become so accustomed to them and we forget how countercultural, like these things provoke, they were so provocative. It provoked the weirdest questions in people. But when people ask questions, they start finding answers. And I think that we are supposed to provide those answers by being the person provoking the questions in the first place because we're living like we actually trust God. And I'm not saying everyone needs to go and purposely do something weird and quit your job to become a magician.
But most people should not.
Yeah. Like, what's the point of that podcast? I think I'm supposed to do card tricks too. But I really do believe that there's something like the Bible says we are set apart, a royal priesthood. We're set apart. The word that it uses is peculiar. We are a peculiar people. Good. Like, be willing to be the person that the world looks at and says, I'm not sure. And I love one of my favorite stories in the Bible. Sorry, I'm maybe rambling now, but when Elijah goes up against the prophets of Baal, right? And the first part, because the prophets, they all showed up, right? Like all of the prophets, they're there drumming and doing their things and doing their chants. And Elijah shows up to show off the power of God. And he's like, let's go, other Christians. And there's like no one else there. Like no one shows up. Like he was the only one who actually believed God that much against all these prophets. And dude, I think this is just the greatest flex in all the Bible because they're trying to get fire to come down to burn up the sacrifice, and they can't do it. And then Elijah's like, he's just sitting there by himself, and he's like, "Yo, God's gonna do it." It's like, "Oh, hold on." It's like, "Let's bring some water in and dump water all over it." Because have you ever seen water catch on fire? No, you haven't, but you're about to because that's how confident I am what God's doing. Like he purposely made it weirder. It was already weird that one guy showed up to expect fire to come out of the sky and light something on fire. But the fact that he was so confident that he purposely made it weirder just to show off the power of God, I love it, dude. I think when we can embrace, because how many of us would be in that moment and be like, oh, look, God, it's everybody against me again. I'm always just lonely Dustin. Look at me, all isolated as always. Oh, isolation is such a trigger. Poor me. Like everything is through the lens of us being the victim. But when we can take on that spirit of Elijah, like, oh, dude, I'm the only one who showed up. This is going to be that much cooler because I'm about to take on all these arrogant dudes. And not only that, I'm going to dump water on this thing just to make this more uncomfortable. Like, lean into that. Lean into what God can do in the midst of your isolation and your fear and your depression and your lack and your poverty or whatever the thing is. Man, lean into that and watch what God can do to show the world who he is. Not that you have what it takes to come up against these people. Anyway, sorry. I just like...
No. Are you kidding me? Do not apologize at all. There's so much gold in there. There's so much gold in there. And you know, that leaning in. But again, that takes intentionality, that takes faith, that takes trust. So as you're sharing all of that, I'm thinking about your wife coming home from a run and saying, hey, so you're going to go on and you're going to win America's Got Talent. Yeah. And going back to the beginning of our conversation, you'd never even watched an episode of America's Got Talent, you know? And
I'm like, that show's still on? I didn't know. Is it American Idol? Because that also is still running apparently.
Yeah. So you hear this and you're like, all right, well, I like to be peculiar. I like to lean in and get stuff, make stuff weird. Even at dinner, you, me, and Colton hanging out last night, saying we're just trying to break stuff. We're just trying to try creative things that no one else is doing. And you know, that's why you're gonna go and try to put a card in a banana and have a kangaroo like pick out the card and
and then almost die.
Yeah, y'all should go and watch that video. And the best part of that video, seriously, was when your friend that was filming the video says to you, didn't even look like he kicked you that hard, as you'd have a hole in your nose.
Yeah, I have a hole in my face. Yeah, the picture's not on the video, but literally no one ever told us that kangaroos have claws, first of all. So what happened was that he kicked my face, which hit my nose, right? So my nose is bleeding. But then his toe claw nail thing ripped my nostril, so that was bleeding too. But the most savage thing about this, bro, is that the kangaroo grabbed me, and you can see in the video if you look, his claws are in my arms, in my shirt, pulling me close. So I don't move. He kicks me so fast, and I don't move, and it looks like nothing happened. Which also, by the way, because I kind of turned, his front foot got the back, and then he also cut the back of my neck. The back of my neck was bleeding also. It's just so ridiculous. But no, my favorite part of the video though is when he's being so cute with the kangaroo. He's like, "Oh, Joey, giving him, he's gonna give him a hug. You giving him a hug? Oh, no, he's not. No, he's not." It's just the instant realization that the thing is not my friend. He's attacking me.
And your buddy even sets you up so good. He's like, "Oh no, he wants you because you were trying to feed the banana at first on top." And he's like,
my time.
And then he's like, "No, you got to feed him lower." And then he's like, "No, he wants you to come inside." Like he totally
listen.
Like
he felt bad about that, and I'm like, listen, you don't have. I was going in there regardless of what anybody said. Dude. Like when I have an idea in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna do a card trick to a kangaroo, bro. I had a deck of cards in my pocket and everything. I was ready to go. I never made it past the banana. I just was like, I'm gonna win it over. I'm gonna give it the banana.
Yeah.
What kind of wild animal doesn't like a free banana, dude? Like in my mind, I'm the coolest guy this kangaroo's ever met.
Yeah.
Like I go inside, I'm like, here, kangaroo, who I'm gonna be friends with. I stayed low because I was like, you're in charge, man. You're the king.
Yeah.
I'll bow down to you. I'm gonna feed you bananas, and then he kicks me. That's what the heck kind of friend? That's what the worst animal in the world, man. I'm so mad at everybody who ever said kangaroos were nice when I was a kid. That is just.
Okay, I totally derailed my question, but that was that was 100% worth it. But so your wife says you're gonna win America's Got Talent.
Yeah, back to that.
So then for you said who loves to do like, okay, let's get weird. Let's try it out. So you try out for the show, and then how does that even happen? Like, so you're like, I'm gonna send an email,
right? So okay, so without making this podcast be 4 hours long, so. This was so crazy too. So my wife and I had started a homeless ministry. We were doing homeless ministry, but before that, I was doing music. So I had a friend who I was catching up with, from when I did music stuff. She was an actress, and my wife had just said this about America's Got Talent, and so I'm catching up with my friend, and she's telling me, how she just did this movie with Tyra Banks. Tyra Banks was the host of America's Got Talent at that time, and I was like, oh, that's funny. I was like, we were just talking about America's Got Talent. My wife was saying that maybe I should try it. Like, I'm not like, my wife said I was going to win. Like, I was like, but Mom, we would talk about maybe trying to get on the show.
Because you'd only been doing magic for
3 days. Like, to a week. Yeah. But no, this was like super right in the beginning. And so she was like, oh, are you trying to get on America's Got Talent? Are you going to be singing? Are you going to be doing music stuff? Because she only knew me from that part of my life. And I was like, oh, no, I'm going to be doing, I don't know, maybe magic tricks. She was like, you're gonna do magic tricks on America's Got Talent? She's like, do you do magic tricks? I was like, yeah, of course, man. Like, I've been anointed and appointed 3 days ago. The Lord covered me in oil and said it's time to be the magician. But for anyone who's like not familiar with the Bible, oil is like an anointing. I was like, if you don't know the Bible, that probably sounded really weird. Like, why did the Lord cover you in oil? Anyways, again, the Bible's weird, dude. Like, this is exactly to my point. That makes sense to us because we know the stories of the Bible of anointing. Yeah. To any non-Christian person who hasn't read the Bible, we're like, you cover each other in oil in church? Like, that's... Here's what I'm saying, dude. Sometimes we don't even know. We're so used to what comes out of our mouths. But anyways, so yeah, I was like, I'm gonna do magic tricks on America's Got Talent. She's like, okay, so well, you have some stuff. Just send it over to me. I'll show it to Tyra. I'm having lunch with her in a couple days. I'm like, perfect. Yeah, of course. I got you. And then I'm like, I don't do magic tricks. What am I supposed to? I'm going to send Tyra Banks. I'm going to be like, hey, Tyra Banks, famous celebrity who hosts this show. Here's me doing things I've been doing for 7 days. And so my friends and I, the ministry we worked with, it was the middle of the night. We went into like the little auditorium worship space, and we turn on all the lights, and we just literally faked a bunch of magic tricks on the stage. Like, I was like, I'm gonna give you this card. I'm like, is this your card? And then she'd be like, oh snap, and like freak out. So we did that. I went onto YouTube and I found a bunch of like other events, and I got the crowd shots and I edited it together with the fake stuff that we just made on the stage. So I'd be like, is this your card? And my friend's like, oh snap, and then like 1,000 people are like, ah, like freaking out. And this is what I sent to Tyra Banks. Dude, at one point we made a drum set appear in the video. Like, I had a microphone, and then me and my wife like picked up this sheet, and then, we quick set up the drum set and had my friend sit at the drums, cut the camera, set it up. They were like, okay, action again. And we dropped the curtain and we edited it together to make it look like this drum set appeared. And this is what we sent to Tyra Banks. And so my friend shows Tyra, and my friend's like, yo, I didn't know my friend Dustin is a magician. I didn't even know he did all this, but this video is amazing. And so Tyra's like, this is incredible. And so she shows the producers, like, we want to meet this guy. And I'm like, yo, we did it. And I'm like, wait, no, this is worse, because now I have to do this for real, like in front of people who are going to know that I'm a liar. And anyway, so, dude, but in my mind, I'm like, this is the perfect setup. Like, this is, like, God is amazing. Like, he's like, you're going to be on America's Got Talent. And here's this. Oh, also, by the way, just because of my wife's past and some of her testimony, which you can also hear, she has a little video online of her story, but she wasn't supposed to be able to get pregnant. So she got pregnant, and then I'm doing the math, and I'm like, oh man, like we're gonna go onto the show. We're gonna sneak attack him with these Jesus stories. God just teed this up perfectly. Like, what are the odds that God says you're gonna win America's Got Talent, and then now I'm sending videos to Tyra Banks like the next week? Like, that is, only God can do that. Obviously, this is what God's doing. My wife got pregnant. We're gonna be able to give this testimony of her past and then how we miraculously got pregnant. And I'm doing the math. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be the live shows. Like, we're gonna have that baby. Like, we're gonna start AGT with no kid, and then she's gonna have a baby, and then we're gonna be able to. America's gonna get introduced to this baby. I'm like, God is amazing. This is perfect. And then the one night, the one producer reached out and was like, hey, Dustin, I'm sorry. Oh, by the way, when I went and did the audition for them, it was terrible. So I didn't do the audition on TV. This was just for the producers. I did a magic trick that I'd done for the first time in my life. Like, literally, I came up with it in the van on the way there. I went with all my friends. Bro, I was so confident. I'm like, guys, I'm about to be on America's Got Talent. All my friends came with. It's like, this is gonna be amazing. And then we got this Airbnb, and then I was thinking of ideas on the way there, and I just changed everything because I was like, I wasn't thinking, I should practice magic tricks. Like, in my mind, if you have the idea, you can do it. So I didn't. It was bad. But then went into this with the story producer who hears your story, and was in there for like an hour just talking to her about all the crazy things, my wife being pregnant, the homeless ministry stuff that we've done. And they loved it. But anyway, so producer reaches out. I was like, hey, look, man, like, we love you, but like, you're not good. So like, this is America's Got Talent, not America has too many stories and a week's worth of experience. So anyways, as funny as it sounds, like, it was like this gut punch, because I'm like, God, what kind of tease, like, what kind of carrot on a stick? Like, God, you're mean. Like, you set this whole thing up perfectly, right? Like, nothing says God's going to answer a promise like hearing you're going to win America's Got Talent and then connecting with Tyra Banks and sending this video. Like, nothing says God is going to fulfill this. Like, every single moment that you just put in front of us, apart from the part where they're like, oh, by the way, you're not going to be on the show. And then, like, literally was like 2 days later, we were in California. We had just announced to our home church there, because we lived in California for a while. We were pregnant. We had just gotten past the 3-month mark. So we're in the safe zone for, any complications, so they say.
Yeah.
But then literally we had just announced it. That night, my wife ended up miscarrying, and we lost the baby. So now I'm extra mad, because I'm like, God, what was that, dude? Like, all of these promises and, again, those things that you want to wrestle where you could just be mad. But I think a lot of times we get mad at God. We get confused. We feel like either A, we're not allowed to ask God the question, because then it shows I don't have faith. How can I question God? Or B, we do the other thing, which is we scream the question at God and we walk away from our faith. We're like, God, how could you do this? We just lost this baby. We like, you teased me. And I wish you just never would have said anything about the America's Got Talent stuff. Or you can do the third thing, which I think a lot of us don't often do, which is ask the question in anger and in frustration and in honesty, and then like, wait. Right? Wait for the answer. Don't feel like you have to fake the fact that, like, ask the questions. Don't pretend like, oh, I have enough. I don't even got to ask it. Ask the questions, but then don't just walk away after you ask it. You wouldn't do that in a real conversation with somebody, right? Unless you were a dysfunctional person. But in a functional relationship, you're authentic, you're vulnerable, and then you wait for answers. You wait for solutions. So we did that. And sometimes that waiting takes a long time. And we waited for a year. We had all these prophetic words. God's going to give you a baby, and it's a testimony to take to the nations. Over and over, people were telling us this thing. And so the next year rolls around, AGT auditions again. We actually adopted our first son, which is crazy because we actually got asked to adopt him like the same week that we were due to have our baby, which was so weird. We were never planning on adopting. This came out, and again, this is a whole long crazy story. Anyways, point is, a year went by, went to audition again. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the baby, this testimony to take to the nations, this adoption. Like this is like everything I had pictured with having this baby on the TV show, telling the story of this baby, but now it's an adopted baby. So we go to audition again, and they're like, dude, you're still terrible. What have you been doing for a year? And I'm like, oh, snap, that practice thing I still didn't figure out. So I didn't get on again that season. So, a year had gone by. And so we're like, dude, I don't know, maybe we're supposed to just take this risk and put everything into this. Felt like God said, just start using this to be a blessing to people. Anyways, this is a whole crazy long story, and I'm sorry I'm ranting. But felt like there was one guy who was in the leasing office in the building that we lived in who was not a Christian, had some addiction problems, and felt like God was like, dude, just go down and do a trick for him every single day. Like one magic trick from every single day. And I'm like, what a waste of time. And so, but God was like, if you're going to use these gifts to actually impact people, why does it have to be masses? Why does it have to be on a stage? Like, would you not do this for one person? Like, if you care about is this for you or is it for them? Because it seems like every time you almost get a platform and it doesn't happen, you get mad. But every time you have an opportunity to love one person, you walk away from it because it's not important enough. And so I felt like God was asking me this question. So who is this for? Is this for you or is this for me? So I went down every day, dude, for a year, just doing a thing. My wife would come down, share parts of her story for a year, just doing a magic trick. And anyways, at the end of that year, that dude ended up getting sober and giving his life to the Lord. And then that was the season I ended up getting on America's Got Talent and not only getting on the show, but ending up winning the show.
Yeah.
And telling all these stories. And what was so crazy, the timing of God was we got on the show, we had Xander, we told the adoption story. Partway through, we get a phone call asking if we would adopt his older brother. And there was no way we were going to say no. We'd been praying for this, that these brothers would get to grow up together, but we were in the middle of doing the show. So we adopt him while we're on the show, get to tell the story of this adoption, ended the show with more kids than we started with. And ended up winning. And bro, I'm telling you, it was just such a wild testimony of, and so I feel like I just have to tell a story as we're talking about things falling apart. AGT was supposed to come out and film some stuff of our life, of me and Carrie and Xander. And I was so stoked 'cause they were going to come to our place where we lived and just film some stuff of us and our friends doing life with Xander. And it rained and they got rained out. The film crew couldn't come. And I was so bummed because I'm like, oh man, we missed this opportunity to like have some extra TV time and this film crew come to be with all of our friends and all stuff. Well, in the meantime, we got the phone call asking if we would adopt his older brother. AGT is trying to reschedule to come and shoot. And it just so happened that the film crew came the same day that Silas came into our home. So that film crew captured the first moments of our boys meeting for the first time. And the reason I feel like I was just supposed to tell us right now is this. That moment was one of the most amazing moments ever. Seeing these two boys united for the first time, adopted. The film crew is there to capture it. Millions of people witnessed this adoption. Millions of people witnessed this kid being welcomed into a home, being united with his brother, watching the promises of God be played out. Millions of people saw this. But it first took that film crew getting rained out. And where I was bummed because the rain came, and I was bummed because the camera crew couldn't come. Had the rain not been there and that film crew would have been there then, they would have missed one of the most magical moments of my life. It was because of the rain that the magical moment happened. And that was one of the greatest challenges, bro, because I'm like, Lord, what is this with all this disappointment in my life? But it's crazy how sometimes, again, when we can embrace that storm like it's an adventure, like I wonder what God's going to do with this. It was because of the storm that the magic moment happened. And so, again, just to bring this full circle, and sorry for this crazy long answer.
Stop saying sorry, brother. No, I'm telling you, like it's just so good and so important.
Yeah, I just this is why I preach this all the time, which is to embrace the mess, embrace the storm, because there's magic in the mess somewhere. Sometimes we have to wait for it. Dude, it took us a miscarriage and a disappointment and a hit to my pride, becoming a magician as an adult and watching it fail like I knew it would, because who's a successful magician aside from David Blaine and David Copperfield, right? And Chris Angel. Like, no, like what other magician is there that's done? It's just, in my mind, magic is a failed profession. Like what kind of career comes from that? How embarrassing to say as an adult, the Lord told me to become a magician. How embarrassing to think I'm going to get on America's Got Talent and start a family just to be told no because I'm terrible. And then we lose our baby and realize we actually can't start a family because of whatever mistakes my wife has made in the past, right? Like, all of the condemnation you start feeling attached to that, all of those things led to not a win on America's Got Talent, which is what most people would see. That's the win. The win is not that everyone voted, and that's actually the most insignificant part of this. The win is the development that came through wrestling through those things, realizing that maybe the things that I wanted for myself, I wanted for a stage. And God's like, dude, love this one guy. Watching that one guy come to know Jesus and being able to celebrate that salvation. To me, the win was the idols in my heart getting stripped one year after the next year after the next year. And that all came from the storms. And people look and they can say, oh, well, yeah, you want America's Got Talent. And you do this and you travel now doing these things. Dude, the journey that God had us on is the most valuable thing, and the greatest win I've ever experienced. The greatest win has been freedom from myself. And this is why, just going back to a lot of the other questions you asked about what's the thing, what keeps you going, all these things, it is that constant discipline of God. This life will be full of disappointment. So how can I feel freedom and joy in the midst of that disappointment? The only way is by surrendering this stuff to you and realizing whatever I have, it's yours, and I just want to steward it well. The pain, the good stuff, the bad stuff, the big stuff, the small stuff, like, God, it's yours, and when I can steward it well, I feel this freedom from this having to validate who I am, because you validate who I am, and I'm just going to do stuff with what you give me. Maybe it leads to winning AGT, maybe it leads to a miscarriage, maybe it leads to getting kicked in the face by a kangaroo, but whatever it is, like, God, you are going to be glorified from it if I can keep my mind in the space where it needs to be. And it's the most freeing thing I've ever experienced.
Man, dude. Man, so good. So good. And, you mentioned a word earlier in our conversation. We're going to wrap up here in just a second. But the word that you used was dependence.
Yeah.
And it was even this morning as you were praying in the bathroom at the hotel.
Yeah.
You're in Sioux Falls. But what that story that you just shared, and I'm so glad that you shared all of it. There wasn't one bit of it that wasn't important to the journey that you just took us on, because it's an important part of your journey, right? And again, that's our testimony, our story. I know that resonates with so many. But the reason why I bring up dependence is because each step of that way, what God was doing was deepening your dependence upon him. And as he was deepening your dependence upon him, you began to release more and more and more and say, yeah, but I wanted to tell this story.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell this one. And as I shared with you at dinner, and I was like, just hope this doesn't offend you, but I actually don't remember any of the tricks you did on the show.
Yeah.
I honestly,
I don't remember, to be honest.
I honestly don't. But what I did remember was your story and the stories you told, because the stories communicates what the power of the gospel, even though you couldn't come right out and say Jesus did all this stuff and whatever. And that wasn't part of the show, but it's our stories that have the power to, obviously, if we allow God to transform our lives. And then it's the sharing of that story that can be used in helping other people understand how God can transform theirs. It's not your story that transformed their lives, but it can help them understand God's story of how he wants to transform theirs. And so thank you for being willing to share all of that, and just the journey that you're on. And I just, you have no reason to, be like, oh, okay, thanks, Tom. But I mean, ever since our first interaction, when we got introduced by our mutual friend, Ted Cunningham, who's just is so close and been a mentor for me for the last, about 8 years now, and has been on the pod multiple times, come to Sioux Falls multiple times, and said, hey, I just know that you and Dustin would just hit it off, and that you need to do some stuff with him, and to have him and you here in Sioux Falls doing date night comedy with us is just such a treat. But thank you for just your authenticity and who you are, and using the platform that God has given, not just the one that you've been given now, but the platform that he gave you way back when.
Yeah.
Right. Because we can look at maybe the largeness of the platform or whatever, and say, well, okay, when I get here, that's the temptation I think that we have. Like, when you do this, then I will do this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the decision that we need to make is, how am I going to use God's platform that he's given me now? Because the reality is we've all been given a platform.
Yeah.
And it's probably not going to be on a stage in
Yeah.
front of a bunch of chairs or whatever, but it's a platform of our home.
Yeah.
It's the platform of the neighborhood that God has strategically placed us in. It's the platform of where we work, and
Yeah.
and that's the platform that God wants us to steward.
Yeah.
And the stewardship of the platform that God's given you now began back here.
Mm.
And I'm proud of you,
Oh, thanks.
and I'm grateful for the way that He's using you. And I just want to encourage you to continue to use the platform and steward that well for His glory. And I know you will. I know you will. And so this has been a real joy for me to
Well,
sit here with you, and I know that we're gonna have a lot of people that have heard, that are listening to this because they saw you be a part of Date Night Comedy last weekend here in Sioux Falls. But one of the things that we do at the end of our show, every time at the end of an episode, is we do something called the final word.
Mm.
And a lot of times it's because we remember some of the final things that people say to us, whether it be a loved one, someone that, an interaction that can be both good and bad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we're being real. So we do something just called the final word, and it's just something that you've given so many nuggets. You've shared your heart, you've shared your passion, throughout our time here. But I just wonder if there's 60 to 90 seconds or however long you want to do it. Just of, hey, this is what I feel like the Holy Spirit wants me to share.
Yeah.
As a final word to anybody that's listening or watching today.
Yeah. I think just even in light of the conversation we just had, I would say probably just for people to not disqualify themselves for any reason. Not because of any failure, not because of any pain, not because of anything you've done or anything that's been done to you. Just don't disqualify yourself. It is wild what God can do with mess, what God can do with chaos, what God can do with brokenness, what God can do with storms. Like, miracles come from these things. And I always say a miracle is when something impossible happens, right? Literally, that's what a miracle is. Something was impossible and then a miracle happened. Meaning a thing has to be impossible first for the miracle to happen. A lot of us are praying for miracles, and then an impossible thing arises, and then we get discouraged and we run away. It's like, wait, but you just prayed for a miracle. It's not a miracle unless it's impossible first. So I would say for anyone who's been praying for a miracle and things feel impossible, lean into that impossibility, lean into the mess, lean into the questions, and trust God to do something. And know that maybe what He does is not going to look like what you think.
Yeah.
But it's not a reason to disqualify yourself, because I promise there's something that happens in the waiting. There's something that happens in the confidence that you have in the midst of that storm. And yeah. And then maybe the last thing to leave people with is a magic trick.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And for those of us.
No, I have an idea.
Okay, good.
Because you're going to say for people who can't see.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, obviously this is on YouTube. So listen,
Yeah.
here's the reality. If you were listening to this in your car or wherever you're listening to it, I would encourage you to go and rewatch it on YouTube and share with other people and whatever, because I mean, the conversation, all that kind of stuff was animation. I love how I had questions here. I didn't even look at them because we didn't need them. And I didn't think we would, but I want to, yes, for sure.
We'll do something that maybe even for the people who aren't watching, that they can still see it.
Okay.
So I'm going to say something right now. I'm going to put a little something in your head right now.
Okay.
That's going to influence you, and then everything that happens up until that point is going to influence you. So we're going to do a trick, but before we do, everything that's happening during this trick is going to somehow try and exploit this connection that we've created in the last day as we've gotten to hang out and stuff. So I'm just going to say this. I'm just going to tell you, I want you to keep in your mind Frank Sinatra, okay?
Okay.
Seems random. Keep that in your head. Back of your head. Not important right now. I'm going to do this. We have actually, I'm going to get rid of the jokers. I'm going to have you make a selection in just a moment. And again, what happens now is not as important as what's going to happen later. But I'm just going to kind of go through some of these cards. And at any point, I just want you to say stop. And I'm going to stop. Whichever card you stop on is going to be the next card, because I don't want to see what it is. Cool?
Stop.
Okay. So we're going to go with this next one. This is going to be your card.
Okay.
Yeah. Show it to the cameras. I don't know which camera sees it. Now, look. We're going to try something. You could have stopped me on any card. Again, it's not important what this card is. The selection is not important as what's about to happen now. So I'm going to tear this this corner off. I'm going to give you the card.
Okay.
And with this corner, I could try and sometimes I'll tell people, maybe I could tell by the ink what your card is. Maybe I could read your mind. But it doesn't matter. What's more important is actually if I could make that card that corner seemingly go away, and then come back somewhere impossible. Now, what if it followed you because you're holding the car there? What if it's somewhere close? Like, we need actually do me a favor. Maybe this is the thing. This is capturing our voice. I told them I want to do something for this. So you picked a random card.
Yep.
What was the card?
Jack of clubs.
Jack of clubs. We took that. We tore the corner off.
Yeah.
The corner's now gone.
Yep.
It needs to appear somewhere. And for people listening, again, they're only hearing this through the audio. So maybe we want this to feel like something for them. So maybe you check your mic. Maybe pull. Does that like unscrew or something? Just pull that off. It's in the this inside the microphone. But hold on, but listen, that's that you said Jack of clubs, which looks like this, but this is only real if that matches. It has to be the same color.
Yeah, okay.
Is it matches? It's the same. All right. But listen, I told you that wasn't near as important of what happens next, because of what if everything that just happened just influenced you to think something. I want you to give me the first number that pops in your head between 1 and 100.
72. 72,
for sure. Do you want to change your mind? I mean, that was the one that just popped into your head. Did I make you say 72?
No, that's the number.
I have a list here of celebrities, and I'm gonna let you do this so I don't touch anything. Go ahead, hit notes right there. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I told you a list of celebrities.
Celebrities, yeah.
Now all different, right? 100 different people. You can scroll through 100 different celebrities.
Number 4 is Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yep.
Daniel Radcliffe, number 11. Lady Gaga, 21. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Pink. You said 72. Do you remember the name of the person I told you in the very beginning? I said this is going to influence you, but everything that happens later is actually going to be the thing that causes you to make a decision that you thought was your choice.
Yeah. Frank Sinatra.
Okay. Can you please look? You said what number did you say? 72. Can you please look at who is number 72 on this list?
Frank Sinatra.
Let's go! Free will's not a thing. Just kidding.
Okay. Oh, so good, brother. Dustin, thank you so much for spending this time with me at this table. I'm so grateful for the time we're going to get to minister on the stage together tonight. But brother, you are a gift. Awesome. And I'm so grateful for your friendship and partnership.
Likewise, bro.
Thank you again, just for the way that you're stewarding what God has given you, not just in talent, but just in life.
Awesome.
At the end of the day. So thanks again for being here.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Thank you for creating space for this.
Yeah, awesome. For sure. Yeah. Man, seriously, how fun was that? And what a meaningful conversation that I got to have with Dustin today that hopefully was meaningful to you as well. If you were encouraged by Dustin's story and how God has used him in so many ways, in a variety of different stages, but most of all, just in how he's using his life, if you've been encouraged by that, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, and that's to share this conversation with others, because here's the reality. We share stories so that they can impact people's lives. We talked about that. And here's the reality. God wants to use your story to impact people's lives. And he does that when we just make whatever we have available for him to use, and we do it on a daily basis. So share this content, because we know it's going to impact other people. If you want to connect more with Dustin or follow him, you can find him on all over the internet, obviously his website, and then on social media. And then before I sign off, lastly, I do want to personally, again, invite you to join us at RESGEN Men's Summit 2026. It's more than a gathering. It's a movement of men choosing to live with clarity, conviction, and Christ-centered vision that you do not want to miss. You can get your tickets and find all the details about the summit, along with a lot of great discipleship tools that just will help you continue to grow and deepen your relationship with Jesus at resgen.org. All right, that's all for today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the RESGEN Giving Life podcast. Until then, continue being men whose life in Christ gives life to others. We'll see you soon.